There are plenty of things I don't like. Traffic, bad drivers, green eggs and ham, and of course, Nintendo's business practices. That last one I've moaned and groaned on for years because I love their games, but the way the company is run is the most unfriendly corporation in the gaming space. I don't think they're the greediest, nor do I think they're like the most degenerate or anything. That still firmly belongs to Ubisoft. They wear that crown proudly. I don't know what happens over there at Ubisoft. I guess their workday consists of going in and huffing paint thinner and then eating glue. But it is crazy how out of touch that company is, and everything you could possibly do wrong as a business, they do with a smile on their face. Nintendo is nowhere near that level, but I think Nintendo is just so anti-consumer and very aggressive to the people that love their games. They make incredible games, but they make it abundantly clear they really don't like you to enjoy their products in ways that they don't intend for it to be used. And they are not afraid to bring that fucking hammer down. They throw their meat on the table and say, suck or else. They have many times over the years shut down community events for a variety of reasons, and recently they've put their peepers on a speedrunning charity event called RTA, where they gave them a warning that unauthorized use of the Nintendo games would no longer be permissible by this event. They need Nintendo's permission for them, but they gave them that warning way too late, thus they couldn't get that permission in time. Now, this is an event that's been run for almost a decade now without hiccups. They've run Nintendo games for all these years, and now all of a sudden, Nintendo puts up a big stink about it, saying, whoa, 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 scoundrels, you can't do that, you fucking hooligans, you need our permission for each game here. I guess they just had the itch. They were scratching at their neck looking for something else to shut down from people that love their games, so they went out of their way to target this charity event. And while they're not shutting it down per se, they did just put a big damper on it by forcing the event to have to omit Nintendo games because they didn't get enough time to get Nintendo's permission after receiving their notice. This event's been run for the past 9 years, and then suddenly this time around they received a warning from Nintendo about using games without permission. They do still have hopes that they'll be able to bring Nintendo titles back into this event in the future, but this came so suddenly, way too quickly, that there's no way they can get permission in time for it. Thus, they've had to pull the titles from this upcoming RTA, which starts today. RTA in Japan made the announcement on their website explaining the absence of the titles. Apparently, Nintendo pointed out to the nonprofit on June 13th that organizations require prior permission to use Nintendo games, adding that RTA in Japan's previous use of Nintendo titles was unauthorized, as permission was not obtained in advance. Oh no! That's a big-time crime right there. Unauthorized playing of a Nintendo game. Oh boy. That's some big potatoes right there. But anyway, immediately upon receiving the notification, RTA in Japan began negotiations in the hopes that they could use the titles again for future events, but as of right now, it hasn't really gone anywhere. It's been decided that RTA in Japan will apply for permission on a per-event, per-game basis, basically having to ask Nintendo every single time one of their contestants wants to play through a game, even if it has been featured at previous RTA in Japan event. In their announcement, RTA in Japan revealed that they were unable to establish clear guidelines on this process in time for 2025, hence the omission. They also apologized to everyone who had applied to speedrun Nintendo games for the event. This article then goes on to explain the reaction to this. So at first glance, it seems like overprotective Nintendo picking on a small charity event. However, the majority of Japanese-speaking users commenting on the matter took a balanced view of the situation, or even sided with Nintendo, with many saying they understood why Nintendo had taken this action now. RTA in Japan started off as a small volunteer-run effort. However, over the past few years, it has grown into a large public event with major sponsors, and the organizer is now registered as a general incorporation association with all the bureaucracy and responsibility that brings. The event's growing prominence is likely what made Nintendo sit up and take notice. Some commenters even said RTA in Japan should have been more responsible and proactively taken measures to ensure that they had Nintendo's permission to avoid disruption to speedrun events. Oh my god. I hate this corporate dick sucking. This should be a positive thing. That this small volunteer-run effort has grown into something that generates real meaningful change and help to charitable organizations. This should be a celebration, not like a, well, you got too big, you should have known, you should have went and sucked on Nintendo's titties over there. Should have begged to be able to play those games there. You should have known. You're not allowed to just play games. on the big screen and try and raise money for charity, that's illegal. And you know what? If Nintendo wants you to ask permission, fine. Why couldn't they have told you that months in advance so that way they could actually go through this process and have them present at the RTA in Japan as they have been for so many years previously? Clearly, June 13th wasn't enough time here. This is apparently a pretty long process. Why did they wait so long? Why not give them this notice at the start of the year or something? Why did they wait until there was no time left to possibly get the negotiations settled and get permission to have them played? Why did they wait so long? Why didn't they make that clear explicitly earlier? If this has become so big and it is already so known that Nintendo games are integral and have been woven deeply into the event, why wouldn't that have been made more clear to the organizers way before it was like at the deadline? It doesn't make sense. It's just so unnecessary to begin with, by the way. I don't think there's any justification or excuse for it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. They are playing your games because they love them and they want to use them as a way of generating positive change in the world. I will never be able to wrap my noodle around the Nintendo perception of every player being an enemy. They treat everyone that touches their game as a threat to their company somehow. Unless you are playing that game privately in your own home at all times, you are viewed as like an actual adversary to them. If you play this game in like a public manner in any way, they will put you under the microscope. It doesn't make sense to me. This is a fucking charity event. Again, if Nintendo wants them to ask permission, fine, but maybe just have that be more of like a collaborative effort at that point. Like, hey, we'd really love if you asked us permission so that way we can be like a big part of this. We love what you're doing with this charity speedrunning event. We love that you love our games. Let us be a part of it. Just talk to us first. As opposed to be like, you need our permission for each individual game, and if not, you cannot have us there. We will come after you. Like, that is such a different tone. If they want this to be more collaborative with permission, fine. But give them that warning sooner, and then also, maybe, like, for this one, they could have been like, hey, I know we didn't tell you this in time. You can still play our games this time around. You'll get, like, our expedited permission for this, but just know, for the following event next year, we would like to go through, like, a deeper negotiation and work more together in order to ensure everything is fully authorized. Like, you didn't need to come in here with the fucking sledgehammer. It's a charity event. It should be something to be celebrated. And overall, it's just so pathetic from Nintendo here. Again, it's your games, sure, you can legally do this, but why do you want to be the biggest douchebag on the planet? They're just a bully. They are now bullying a non-profit charity speedrunning event. Unauthorized use of their games. They're just playing them. They are just playing your games while trying to raise money for a really good cause. What kind of company has an issue with that? They're not stepping on your toes or anything. They just love your games and want to play them, speedrun them, and raise money for a good cause. How does that not fit in line with the Nintendo MO of bringing positivity through this art? It's just crazy to me. And unsurprisingly, I've seen a lot of Nintendo drones defending this, as there always will be. There are people that will fight tooth and nail for the honor of Nintendo as they continuously get spit upon by the company, but they love that spit in their mouth. They live for that shit. They do all their PR for free. So there are people saying that it's not that big of a deal. This is a legal thing, and they gotta ask permission if they want Nintendo games. They're not shutting them down. They're just saying, you need our permission to play those games. And I know I'm about to repeat myself, but it is just a point that needs to be made, like, strongly. There's, like, no real way to wiggle out of this checkmate here. If it isn't that big of a deal of, like, asking permission from Nintendo to play these games, why did they wait until there was no time left for RTA in Japan to get that permission? Why wouldn't they have given them this warning, this notice, much sooner, so that way they could go through this entire process, go through this whole song and dance that Nintendo requires them to do? It does seem like there's a lot of moving parts to it. Why wouldn't they tell them this and get this going many months ago? This event has become big enough that clearly Nintendo is aware. They could have easily reached out to them and let them know much earlier this year. So that way they would have had time and they would have gotten the permission to be here. Instead, they waited until there was absolutely no time on the clock. They couldn't get the buzzer beater negotiations over the finish line. Thus, they just had to remove the Nintendo games or else face potential punishment. Like, I don't understand how anyone could look at this and think Nintendo's in the right here. Like, if they want you to have to ask permission, fine. But make that clear way in advance so that way they can do that. I don't think there's a strong defense for it. Now, I've made it clear I have no plans of buying Nintendo property again until this company has a drastic overhaul. I know, what a brave hero. but I keep getting asked, like, what do I think of DK Bonanza and all that? I think the game looks great. I have no plans of getting it. I don't have a Nintendo Switch 2. I have no plans of buying a Nintendo Switch 2. Even though I'm the biggest FromSoft fanboy there is, I am like so fucking deep like in the hypnotism that I must consume all FromSoft. Their upcoming Switch 2 exclusive game, Duskbloods, still not going to be getting it if Nintendo as a company doesn't change, or at least show that they're willing to work more with the community and go in a better direction. It's shit like this is exactly why. I can't stand it. It's so incredibly unnecessary. It's a speedrunning charity event. I find it so weird how successful companies have been at brainwashing people to side with them always. It's become very common for people to side with a corporation over an individual now. Now, granted, in this case, the speedrunning event, the charity event, is a company too, but it is a non-profit organization that solely is doing this to generate money for a charitable good cause, using products that they own to make a positive impact. And somehow people are still going against them, blaming them, saying that they were in the wrong, just because Nintendo said so. Because Nintendo reached out at the last minute saying, no, you can't play our games because you didn't get our permission. You need to get our permission. Let's start. When there was no time to start and finish that negotiation. Thus, they had to get rid of those games, which are a big part of the event, apparently. I just don't know how people can be at this point where all of a sudden they look at that and be like, yeah, Nintendo was super right. It's just super weird to me. Anyway, just wanted to yap about this a bit. That's it. See ya.